We all have things we're carrying: stress, anxiety, pressure, distractions, mountains that appear everywhere in our lives. But where I see mountains, I also see opportunity, and that opportunity is to get outdoors. This is the Mountains Are Everywhere podcast. So lace up those boots, cinch down those packs, and let's head for the mountains. All right, what?
It was like the conversation we started to have last week. You're like, stop talking.
Yeah, stop
We're going to
talking.
record.
So then what is your opinion on states starting to codify hunting and fishing in their state constitutions? Did you know that was a thing? They're basically saying
Yeah,
that hunting and fishing is a right of the citizens of the state.
I I get it, but to just and I think there's a fair argument to argue on both ways. But I think if you zoom out, and you'll hear this a lot, the 10,000 foot view of it is the North American model, right? So every country in Africa has their own hunting laws. Africa does not.
Mm-hmm.
Each country has its own laws, everything that goes along with it. Well, deer don't stay in the same county. They migrate. What
Yes.
about what about elk that go across from Montana all the way to Colorado?
Mm-hmm.
That's all right. So now you're dealing with three states saying that, oh God, knock them out of Idaho, knock them out of Wyoming, just kill all the elk that you can kill. Was that the right thing to do? Because they say it's a right, or do I think the North American model is probably the best one that we've had so far? Probably the best, the adding a value to everything that we're allowed to hunt, including pigs, which is kill them all. But there's a value to a feral animal. Hogs, iguanas. I mean, kill iguanas. Hell, you're getting paid. Idaho pays you to kill wolves. Um, the value of it. I understand where the states are going with saying that this is a right, but I don't know. It's hard to.
I kind of put you in a corner there when I asked the question because the whole reason for states trying to start codifying this is because it feels like we're getting more and more pressure through legislation to kind of put issues like this on a ballot and kind of get let the public decide, um, what's what. And so the whole purpose of them trying to codify it is so that it can't.
We don't hunt wolves in Colorado.
It's so they
That's
can't put hunting yes or no on a freaking ballot. You know what I mean?
that's why I said I think you can look at it through both. Going back to California, I was there when they banned mountain lion hunting in California.
You know they banned bobcat hunting now?
Sure, sure, doesn't surprise me.
Nope.
Um, so I know cattle farmers. You cannot shoot a mountain lion in California, right? That is a no fly. It doesn't matter if you're a cattle farmer. It doesn't matter if they're eating your pet off the front porch. You can't
Doesn't
shoot a mountain
matter
lion
how
in
many hikers are getting picked off on their
California.
hikes in the mountains.
So instead of you and I putting in for a mountain lion tag, and neither of us getting it, but the guy down the street does, but we still put in our $5 or whatever it is to apply. So instead of making $10 off of you and I, they're hiring a sharpshooter. They're hiring a hunter, a federal hunter, to go out there and shoot them to control the population. So instead of getting money, and still at the end of the equal sign, at the end of the equal sign, the animal dies. Right? That's the end of the equal sign. But the other animals that need the money for wildlife restoration, not turkeys because turkeys are overrun in California, but other animals that are having hard times, mule deer with the sagebrush and stuff like that, and like way up northern California. Instead of directing funds, getting those funds from you and I, paying our $5 or whatever, $10 a piece,
Right.
instead of getting that money and going back into wildlife, the whole picture of wildlife, it's not people aren't hunting, so they're just hiring somebody to shoot it. So it doesn't make any sense to me. I know hunters, let's say that was before the law that all that happened, that told me or friends or somebody that I read a book about one time that if you see a mountain lion, you shoot that thing in the guts because it'll run off and die somewhere else because it kills cattle that they run every year. Now, which one's right? At the end of the day, the animal still died.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, uh, one may have in a book might have been not legal. Um, but that was a really interesting story that I read one time in a book about that.
Selfishly, I'm always on the side of the argument that's going to give me the opportunity to hunt and
Yes.
put money in the banks of the organizations that are actually out there actively also managing the wildlife.
Well, if you want a really good bar argument to start with somebody, you can tell them that Hillary Clinton and Obama and a lot of Democrats are the largest supporters of wildlife conservation of all time.
I have not. I don't know anybody that would fly with.
No, and I'll tell you why. So every gun that we bought during all those administrations, 11% of that goes to the Pittman-Robertson Act and
Yeah.
11% goes for wildlife conservation. 50 cents for every one of these arrows.
You know, I'll be honest that whenever the tax for ammunition and weapons go up, I have a hard time viewing it that way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
but I'm also, I don't have my Air Force hat on right now, just so everybody knows. I have just the feeling in the pit of my stomach of what the government's going to do with money when they say they're increasing my taxes. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll leave
It's
it.
never good. Um,
Anyways,
let's go down the rabbit hole of not heavy versus light
yeah.
because that's not the argument.
So here's where I left you off 15 minutes ago before we started talking again. Eric was doing a live stream on Facebook, and I tuned in, and I heard him say something that in my ignorance, because I'm not a smart man, had never considered about the heavy arrow debate.
Mhm.
Because everything I'd heard about it is like, no matter what, you need to shoot a 550 plus grain arrow. If you're not, then you're wrong. And then the guys that say, oh, you don't need to shoot that heavy of an arrow because a 350 grain arrow can kill an elk. Okay, all
Yeah.
well and good. Here's what Eric said. He said, I don't build a heavy arrow because I necessarily want a heavy arrow. I build a heavy arrow because I use quality components, and those quality components just happen to equal up to a heavier arrow.
Yes. So
Boom.
structural and so here you go. I printed up something. Well, yeah, we'll do this first. I
Okay.
printed up something. So I'm not going to say who wrote this or anything like that, but I'm going to go off of some things that a guy that Texas Parks and Wildlife District, this is in Texas, suggests for building an arrow.
All right.
Structural integrity, the durability of the arrow in the broadhead. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Okay. If not, you have cheap fiberglass arrows you get off of Amazon and shitty aluminum broadheads that bend and break, right?
Yeah.
Perfect arrow flight, which is, I would say, number one in my book, right? Because if it's flying like this, it doesn't matter how strong it is, you're not going to hit what you're aiming at.
Yeah,
So
no,
perfect arrow flight.
it affects so much if your arrow is coming off already at a disadvantage. Yes, perfect arrow flight is key.
Yeah. So this is where this list gets a little wild. Heaviest FOC possible.
Mm,
Well, hold on. I'm just going to read this and then I'll let you know who did it and why they did it.
okay.
Four to center balance, flies better, and retains energy at maximum for maximum penetration.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm going to pause you because I totally missed. What exactly are you describing right now?
So these are the Texas Park and Wildlife suggested arrows for building arrows for hunting in Texas.
Okay, so when you build your arrows, they should hit the per Texas Park.
This is
They should hit these points.
this is their suggested
Yep.
things that an
Okay.
arrow should do.
Now I'm tracking. Sorry.
High mechanical advantage broadheads.
Yes.
For maximum penetration, long, narrow blades are most effective. Let's go with a 3-to-1 ratio that people bring up, right? So a long, skinny broadhead versus a really sharp point blunt. right? A skinning knife, a fillet knife works better than a butcher knife.
Yeah, by design.
Agree?
By design.
Agree, disagree.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Shaft diameter. Shaft should be smaller than the diameter of the broadhead ferrule, right? You don't want a small diameter ferrule on your broadhead and a big shaft, a big indoor arrow shaft on the outside, right?
Too much drag.
Too much drag, slipping through the flesh of an animal, it's going to hit everything else on it. The idea was a bigger ferrule on a broadhead, smaller shaft behind it. Why we shoot 204s, 166 shafts, whatever.
Yep.
Arrow mass weight. This is where it gets a little crazy. Arrow mass weight. The greater the mass weight, the better the penetration. We'll skip that one. Blade edge finished. Blade edge finished. Smooth hone, stropped, razor sharp edge works best. Sharp red heads are
Common
great.
common sense.
Yep, that common sense. Shaft profile, tapered arrows are the best choice for maximum penetration. It goes the same thing with having the same size ferrule, right? So it's bigger in the front, smaller in the back. Tapered shafts were a wood shaft thing. They make tapered arrow shafts for compounds. I wouldn't.
I was getting ready to ask about tapered arrows nowadays because I don't know of any.
They do make them. I'm just putting this out there. I'll tell you who it is and why this was made. But would you not agree that a larger front end and a smaller back end, the arrow is going to slip through?
Yeah, because you're going to punch a bigger hole for a smaller diameter arrow to slide through. Yes.
Yep. Broadhead profiles. Broadheads should have smooth transitions from the main blade to the ferrule.
Agreed.
Yep. This is single bevel heads, edge bevel type. Rotational force of single bevel heads works best on bone hits. Easiest way to look at that is you have a sharp. I should have brought something to draw with.
Get
You
out
have a
your
sharp
toys.
point.
Get out your toys, Eric. Let's see what you got.
You have a sharp point arrow, right? A double bevel head or a single bevel head. A single bevel is going to have more meat behind the blade, right? The cutting edge is only on that leading edge, right? So when you cut with a knife, the only part of that knife that's cutting is the point that's cutting the meat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thinner that is, so say you have like a hollow grind pocket knife, right? That hollow grind is going to be two convex edges coming together. It's going to be weak up here. Or if you have a blunt force like that, it's a stronger, there's more meat in that arrow. Or
Okay.
more meat in that, right? It's just,
Practice.
it's not single versus double. It's just, there's more meat behind the cutting surface. Tip design, we'll skip that one. And heavy bone threshold, arrows of 650 or higher. That's the Ed Ashby 12 factors of lethal arrows.
Okay, so here's the thing. I wanted to say Ashby at the beginning but I didn't know. I don't know Ashby like much about him, so I didn't know if he had any like tie to Texas. But Ashby was
Uh,
100%.
I honestly just think that Texas probably stole it from him. So
Ashby was 100% like yeah, that's I knew that's who you're talking
yeah.
about.
So with that all being
Wait,
said,
wait, 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 wait. Can you just for the listeners' knowledge who might not know who's Ashby?
so Ed Ashby, that's where I was getting with. So all that being said, Ed Ashby went to Africa in the 70s, 80s. I'm
It's been a
thinking somewhere
long time.
a long time ago with a single, not a recurve, but a stick bow, and took down Cape buffalo, black rhino, elephant, giraffes, all the wildebeest, all your big critters
Yep.
with a stick bow. He did it all with a stick bow. This was before compounds were cool, or when compounds had little tiny golf cart wheels on them or little skateboard wheels on them. So he
Very,
went and took,
yeah, very impressive and hard not to listen to a guy that accomplishes something like that.
yes. So if the idea is you are trying to do this in speed, because what's his distance? What distance? This is where everybody gets too confused on has to be 600 grains, has to be this, has to be single bevels, has to be a over 18% FOC. Stop paying attention to the numbers. Look at what he was doing and the things he was doing it with.
Yes.
So he was doing with a stick bow. Was he trying to shoot 40 yards?
No, there's no way.
He wasn't. So he's doing what? Less than 20?
Less than 20.
So drop is not sufficient. Drop is out of the equation at all.
Mm-hmm.
And you know from shooting a recurve, you can get really good at 20. and be really bad at 30.
Every time I go shoot, brother.
Yeah, so you keep them close, and you're aiming, and I've said, Hunter has heard me say this. You're building the right bullets for bows. That's all this is coming down to is you're building the bullets. I like you and I talked about the other day. I have shot three different arrows out of my bow. I go back and forth between two all the time, but I've shot three different arrows out of my bow. The bow is I don't mess with the bow. The bow is set.
When you say three different arrows, you mean like three different
Three different
configurations?
ways.
Yes.
Yep. So this one, and this one.
Oh
So
wait,
it's
no, you
three.
literally meant three different arrows. I thought you meant the same arrow at three different configurations. You literally meant three
No,
different arrows.
three different arrows that all tune out of the same bow.
Meaning you paper tune bullet holes with three different arrows out of the same
These
tune.
all three of these arrows tune this just fine out of the same bow.
What?
Yeah, why not? All
I'm
right, so let's go back.
I'm
Let's go
too
back.
ignorant to know.
Let's go back. How do you set up a recurve?
I put a string on it and I go out and shoot it.
Fair enough. All right, so when you set up a recurve, you put a string on it. You set up a string, right? You string it. You get center shot, right? You go 90 degrees off the string, you set your rest. You want to get your rest centered. The center of the bow is here. So you go off the string, you set your rest on there. This is a glue on rest. You set this. Well, what spine arrow do you use?
I want to say they're 400s, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, what if you wanted to run more weight of 125 grain head?
I'm gonna go a stiffer spine.
Yep, so you'd have to go stiffer, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to run 150 grains up front, you're gonna have to run a stiffer spine
Yes.
because all it's doing is pushing. I need a flexible arrow. This 400. Oh, let me grab a 500 spine arrow. They flex more.
Wait, when you said what spine, did you mean out of my recurve or my compound?
It doesn't matter. Still the same.
It doesn't matter.
Both,
What do you mean? It all matters.
we'll go for recurve because there's just sticks and strings involved.
Yeah,
So
that's
all you're
basically
doing
it.
is loading up weight on this side, right? You're
Yes.
accelerating. So all the arrow is doing is that. So
Right.
depending on how much weight is there, is how much of this you have.
Because
You're
and
trying
that's because like when it has more weight to push off the rest, it's gonna load up more behind and cause
to
that
load
flex.
up before it goes.
Yes. Okay.
So Archer's paradox around a bow. These are all center shots, but if you had a traditional stick bow, you would have to tune an arrow like a stick and string Robin Hood bow. I've got another one in here. You have to tune that arrow so when it goes, it flexes around the bow. Because if not, your vanes will hit it and kick it.
Okay.
So so a center shot recurve, like I'm probably you have and I have, it's not as important because you're shooting center, right? Center of the string, center of the arrow, center here. But if you're shooting an old style, like stick and Robin Hood style, a traditional stick bow, you have to tune that so that it comes around and Archer's paradox is around the bow.
Okay. Got you. I had not heard
So,
that term before.
so if you're shooting something that's perfectly straight, you don't want it to move, right?
I mean, no.
It's going to load up because there's all this weight that's not moving. It's just weight up here. And it's going
Understood.
to push from back here and flex that arrow. Can you see all that? It's going to flex the arrow. It's just going to happen because it's something in motion. Well, what's the difference between a recurve and a compound?
A lot.
Like,
Axles?
okay, are they shooting straight? Your axles aren't like this.
No, they're tuned. They're tuned to shoot straight.
They're shooting parallel with each other, right?
Yes.
So you can tune the limbs. On my bow, I can preset each limbs so I can get the cam lean, right? So
Yeah.
you're not doing this and the string's going that way and then back.
It's whatever it
You're
takes
shooting
to get your arrow to come off the rest perfectly straight.
perfectly straight. So at that point, it's the same thing every time. Nothing moves every time. Once it's set, you have your center shot, you have your set, you have your knock set. Everything's the same. The difference between these three arrows is point
Okay.
weight and spine. So let's go with this
Wait,
is
wait,
a
wait, wait. So even the spine are different on some of those arrows?
yeah, they're three totally different arrows.
Okay. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I'm again fairly ignorant. I consider myself fairly ignorant when it comes to the in-depth aspects of archery and arrows.
Okay.
But you're
So
telling me three different arrows,
mhm.
different spines,
Yep,
are tuning or shooting the same out of a bow with no change in the tune.
exactly.
Continue.
Okay. So I'm doing that. So I'm a 28-inch drop, 70 pounds, right? I am the same as every other normal human on the planet. There's your Cameron Haynes who shoots 90 pounds. There's your Greg Pools who are 6'7". There's your my buddy Cody who's 6'6" and shoots 70 pounds. And
Dude, is Greg Poole really six
he's
seven?
enormous. I don't know how tall he is. I know he's enormous and he has long draw length. Tim Gillingham has like a 31-inch draw length.
Yeah.
Levi Morgan, huge draw length. Those guys, you look at everything with the grain of salt and where it's coming from, right?
Sure.
So Cam Haynes shoots a heavy arrow, right?
Yes.
It's because he shoots a 90-pound bow. I would do the exact same thing. Like, here, go. I had some visual representations on the. We're gonna go off on an off tangent, but just gonna put us back where we were.
Let's go.
Which one of these will kill a deer? That's a 22 short, and that's a 50 BMG. Which one of those will kill a deer?
I'm gonna say both.
Both, right? Now, is a 22 short something you're going to rely on? No,
No.
that's pretty much an eyeball shot, maybe a temple, right? That is a
Right.
very small window. Is a 50 BMG relative to just about wherever you hit him, he's going to go down, right?
Yes.
That's a 600 grain bullet going 2,800 feet per second, right around 3,000 feet per second. That's a lot of horsepower. So we can argue that that is the extremes, right? Those are your major extremes.
Okay. Yes, I agree.
Now we play in this area, right?
Yes.
So let's go with. I brought visuals and I have lots of ammo.
I'm glad you did because honestly, so something that's great about this podcast right now is that honestly, it's great that this is really the first time we're really talking because a lot of times when I podcast with somebody that I know really well, it almost feels robotic in the way that I ask them questions because I already know what they're going to answer. I have
Mm-hmm.
no idea what you're about to come at me with. So everything from me
I
is
have a
is a
whole.
genuine reaction.
I have a whole pile of stuff over here. So let's go. We'll go to the light side of hunting calibers. So this is the wheel of the family that likes. This is your 350 grain arrow guns. This is on your high side. Maybe that's a 22 TCC. That's a 40 cal neck down to a 22. 204 Ruger. These are your fast runs. 22 Swift, 22 250, 17 HMR. That's on your waylight side,
Yeah.
right? These are your super high speed, low momentum, right? Little bows, little bullets,
Okay.
right? They're just zinging. They're super fast. This is your 350 grain arrow. You're running at like blowing your bow up speeds, right? Right. You're running on the ragged edge. You're running as much velocity. Remember how I said it's not about weight, it's velocity. So
Yep.
this is as much velocity as you can get out of that. 25-06 is that thing is singing. 22 250. That's a 244. I think that's a 22 250.
Wait,
222.
it's a 244? What the heck's a 244?
This is a bunch of cool stuff. 22 Swift. I think this is a 250 Savage. Where is the 22? 22 250. That is a prairie dog antelope killing machine, right? That's like a 60 grain bullet. That thing is singing. That's 3,400 feet per second, probably up there, higher than that. But not a lot of weight, right?
Yep.
So then, so that's the light side, the super fast, and then we'll go ahead.
Are you about to ask me if I would shoot a moose with a 22 250 and I tell you no and you say that's why you build heavy arrows?
No, but I do know a guy that shot a moose with a 6.5 Creedmoor. So,
Ah, shame on that guy.
well, he shot it off the fender well of a tractor at probably 30 yards. So, no big deal.
That's not hunting. What are you talking about?
It's moose hunting in North Dakota. You just shoot
No,
where you want to
yeah,
kill.
100% it is. You ask around till you find a farmer that has hunters on his property or that has
That
moose on his
wants you to
property.
shoot all of them. Yeah.
Yes.
So then we'll go to the heavy side, right? So now we're going heavy but slow, right? So
We're in the
45
yep.
ACP. Now I tried my best to make these. These are all 45 caliber mostly, but 45 ACP, subsonic 900 to 1,000, 800 to 1,000 feet per second. Here you go. 800 to 1,000 feet per second.
Yep.
44 Magnum. It's not a 45, but it's as close as I could get. 45 Long Colt's kind of anemic. That's 1,300 to 1,400 feet per second. 4570. We've reached into some big boy stuff, right? It's killed
Yep.
more bison than anything else
Yep.
ever around. 1,900 to 21 feet per second, 2,100 feet per second. 458 Win Mag. That is a built and designed to shoot dangerous game in Africa, right? That's a 300 grain projectile. That's shooting between 2,100 and 25. That's a 458 with a 500 grain projectile in it. That is a monster. That is black rhino, wildebeest, or not wildebeest, elephant. That is a stout round. I have some really big African rounds, right? So we can 4570. I don't know if you've hunted with the straight wall states. Like 4570 is a toad of a round. Like
Yes. Yes, it is.
that'll knock them down. And then you have your extremes. What is this? This is a 460 Weatherby Magnum. That's its even bigger brother than that. All in a 45 caliber, right? Can you see all those?
Yes.
All right. So for demonstration, I have this. So that's, let's say, 800 to 2,500 for that guy, right? Now let's take the same velocity and let's go with, what caliber do you shoot a deer with?
7 mag.
Fair enough. I was going to go 30-06, 308 is probably the most common, somewhere around there, right?
Yeah.
7 mag,
Three,
awesome. I love a 7 mag because I just love
308 308 is probably my next rifle, but 7 mag is my go-to right now.
oh, 7 mag right here. All right. We're going to start really small again. At that same velocity, that 8 to 900 feet per second, that's a 230 grain bullet. This is a 30 Mauser. So the German Lugers, this is a little tiny little guy.
Yep.
It's a German Luger shot a 30 Mauser. So basically a 9 millimeter neck down to a 30 caliber,
Yep.
around the 8 to 900 feet per second. So that's it's in this category. Let's see. This is, we'll talk about that in a second. We'll go, that's a 300 blackout. 1,920 feet per second is what the box is. I looked right there. So that lives right here in that category.
Okay.
What's next? 30-30. Arguably probably killed more deer in the United States than just about anything else, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody loves a liver action 30-30. 21 to 2,300. That lives right about here in that weight class. 308. 27 to 2,800. 30-06. 28 to 3,000.
You think a 30-30's killed more deer than a 30-06?
30-06 didn't become popular until after World War II, and it was surplus rounds. So the 1903 Springfield was a round, but it wasn't a surplus gun until after World War II.
Yep.
So I would say that the 30-30 by years probably had to jump on it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it was the first smokeless powder cartridge that got called. It was a 30-30 Winchester forever before it was a 30-30. But it was the first smokeless powder cartridge, so it was a giant selling ass point. Like by time, I would say a 30-06 probably is gotta be in the number two or three. I would say 30-30 is probably really high. Hell, I'd probably say 22 is probably the highest, honestly.
Ooh,
300 Win Mag. 31 to 3,300 feet per second. Do you know what all of, and then we'll go to, that's the extreme, that's a 300 Weatherby Magnum, which is its bigger brother, and that thing zings at like 2,600 feet per second.
Yeah.
Do you know what all of these bullets have in common?
Um,
They're all 30 cals.
I was gonna say they're all 30 cal, yeah.
They're all 150 grain. Do you know what all these bullets have in common? Minus these two, because I tried my best. That's 230. 44 mag doesn't make a 300 grain. These are both 300 grain.
Okay. So they're the same weight.
So it tried to find the same something on a 30 cal, right? We're not in the little super fast. We're trying to find a medium 45, 30 caliber. 30 caliber, I would say, is your general average, right?
I would say, yeah.
I like a 7 mil. You like I shoot a 7 weight and a 7 mag.
Yep.
Just because I reload and I can do everything a 308 can, but faster and flatter. But I reload for it. I shoot everything with 308 because I really like the gun, but I reload a lot for. So throw another one in there, 300 blackout subsonic.
Okay.
So now we're into this category. In speed, 200 grains, less drop because of aerodynamics. So we're in that same category of velocity wise, but way more weight.
Yeah.
This is the odd duck out. This is the subsonics. But if you look at it, inside here is about the same velocity. 4570, 458 Win Mag, 300 blackout, 3030. All going the same within a couple, 100 or so feet per second. The difference is weight. Does the visual representation, all that kind of give you the idea? These are 300 grains. These are 150. That's twice as much bullet going the same speed.
No, 100% get it. I was gonna say we're talking a lot about rifles here, so tell us why this is relevant
So
to the
where we go
conversation
to
with arrows.
bows is where this is going to drop off. Now we can both agree 30-30 and 45-70, one's going to drop out of the sky.
Yeah.
Not out of the sky. A
There's,
hell of a lot more drop than the other.
yes.
Right? So that speed is going to give you, and it's the same speed. What you're getting is weight of the projectile.
Yes.
So the inertia, the powder behind it. Oh, wait. And I had this too. So then you go to the same capacity bullet, right? So the same inertia driving device. Let's call it a bow. Or in this case, we'll call it gunpowder. 243, 7mm08, 308, 350 Remington. The difference between those is the same powder load, same powder charge between that. 243 is like 110 grains, 35 Remington's like 180.
Mm,
What you're getting is the weight of the bullet behind it.
yes.
Same amount of inertia behind it, right? It's all the same family, same parrot case, everything's exactly the same. 35 just gets a different taper on it because it's shaped a little different, but it's the same family case. They're all based off 308, which is all based off of 30-06. So you're getting same velocity. So you're still your 70-pound bow is you can just pick the different arrow that you're putting in front of it.
Okay. Now, okay, sorry.
You
Again,
see where I brought all that back into there?
yes,
So you're
again,
getting the same velocity, but you're doing it at the you're having to add more horsepower. So if you want this, a heavy arrow going fast, you have to shoot a 90-pound bow.
yeah.
That's flying.
Yeah.
If you want to shoot this 25-06, you shoot a 90-pound bow with a 350 grain arrow into it, right? So there's different. Velocity is just what comes off the cams. That's efficiency of your limbs. That's where all the momentum comes from. Does that make sense at all?
No.
Or kind of
No.
tracking. So this is a 10,000-foot view of arrows, right?
Yeah.
And this is a good way to look at it and something that somebody would understand that is maybe familiar with firearms, right? You have your extremes, like hell yeah, like 458 Win Mag with a 500 grain bullet in it. I think it's 4,500 foot-pounds of energy.
Mm.
It's enough. I know it's 77 foot-pounds of recoil.
Is that what they back up the buffalo hunters with in Africa?
No, I have like some 600 Nitro Expresses. I have some really just looks like
Oh, Yep. Yep.
Big stuff, big stuff. This would be like an elephant round. This is a 460 nitro or 460 Weatherby. Yeah, 460 Weatherby Magnum. That's a hoss of a round, but you're doing that at the cost of recoil. The powder charge in that is your bow poundage, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So you can go the other route. I have to dig in there. A really big bullet with a small amount of powder behind it. We'll go to 45. Right? That's a 230 grain bullet. That's a hefty bullet.
The big one.
But to not make it so unmanageable, right? To not make it this big, it's less momentum. That's a 50-pound bow. 45, 35 pounds. So you're still sending the same projectile. It's just how it's getting there. So the powder charge is the poundage of your bow, the efficiency of your bow, all that kind of stuff. And then what projectile, your arrow, you're sending at it is what changes. So with all of that, right, there was my 10,000 foot view with stuff. Does that all make sense kind of? Like when you
Yeah.
lay it out like that, it makes sense in my head a little bit more.
I don't know why it took me. It did. I'll be honest. It did take me just a minute there to realize where you're going because
Yeah,
I, I'm not a smart man, you
yeah,
know.
no
But
problem.
no, you brought it together there very well. So
So if the idea is you can build, you know what your powder charge is. You know 70 pounds, 28-inch draw, the bow IBO's at, let's call it 300 feet per second, right? We're just going to make up nice, easy numbers. I have another visual for you. It's a shot timer. So there's some math that you can do online, velocity and distance and time. So a given velocity at a given distance takes this much time, right? It's just math. It's how long something takes. So let's just say something going 300 feet per second. I don't know what's this set it for. This is at 200 feet per second. We're going on the extreme. So this arrow I shot a moose with is 660 grains.
wow.
It is, I think, at 245 feet per second, something like that.
Okay.
I've never owned a chronograph. I don't know. I probably need one with all the reloading and everything. I shoot for groups, so it shoots the best. I don't care how I got there because the only thing that matters is the results on target or on an animal, right? I don't care how we got there. There's this beautiful thing called a sight in a rangefinder that it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So 200 feet per second at 40 yards, an ethical shot on a deer, we'll call it 40 yards. We'll just, for time distance wise, if you did it at 20, the time gap is too small. At 100 is too far, right? So we'll call it 40 yards. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So it's 6/10 of a second, 200 grains. All right, 200 feet per second takes 6/10 of a second for an arrow to get to a target at 40 yards.
Okay.
So because 6/10 of a second is longer than this beep is, I added a second. So it's going to be 1.6 seconds.
Got you. Okay. Yeah.
Ready? And I want you to tell the difference between the two. All right, as one between those two beeps was 1.6.
I'll be honest. I could not pick up the beep on my end.
Okay, we'll do it again.
Give me like just throw your hand up or something when the beep hits.
Well, I can't move that fast. All right. So did you get that second one, that loud one?
Mm-mm.
So see if you hear this.
Okay, I did get a little indication. It's not a full beep, but I can tell when the beep goes off.
So that's 1.6 seconds.
Okay.
Or I can just tell you the numbers. It's 2/10 of a second or 4/10 of a second difference between 200 feet per second and 300 feet per second.
Say that one more time.
It's 4/10 of a second.
Gotcha.
So half of a
Yep.
second difference between 200 feet per second and 300 feet per second.
Gotcha.
Just velocity, right? Just doesn't matter if it's a bullet, a baseball, a football, doesn't matter what it is. If you're throwing it 200 to 300 feet per second at 40 yards, it takes 4/10 of a second difference.
Gotcha. Tracking.
It's a half a second. Now, people always say drop, right? The heavy arrows drop more, drop less. They do. The second an arrow leaves the string, it's falling out of the sky.
Yes.
So the one thing I have noticed, because I run two sights, how I get away with running different arrows. So I have two sights, and they're on dovetail, so I can take them on and off. So I have two different sights. My, I guess, my normal arrow that I've shot tack events with and stuff like that is 471 grains, 472.
Yep.
That is my normal. It's an awesome arrow, 470 grains. I've shot it out to like 110. I'm on a 5-pin slider sight. I'm 20 through 60 on a slider, right? That is, I don't ever use the slider because I'm not ever hunting outside of 60 yards. That's a long shot.
Yeah.
That same 660 grains, that's 20 to 60.
Okay.
So I'm not shooting the pin gap is there is a pin gap. Granted, these are different because one sticks out farther than others, so one's a little bit different. But the pin gap, and what I've noticed with the heavy arrow is the pins. If you had pins, so when you look through your sight, you'll have as they go down. Can you see this?
Yes.
As you go down, the pin gap becomes more and more, right?
Yep, because the drop's going to be more.
So on a heavy arrow, it carries momentum more. So your pin gaps are damn near exactly the same distance all the way down.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's going slower, it's dropping, but dropping more consistent.
Yep.
Not that any of that matters because we have a rangefinder and we did all this really cool math and set pins that say I need to shoot 34 yards, and you shoot between your 30 and 35 yard pin or 30 and 40 yard pin, or you're on a slider and you just dial to 35 and you shoot off your pin, right?
Yeah.
We have all this cheating system where they didn't have with recurves tradition. So that's where switching between arrows on like a recurve wouldn't make any sense because your shot is going to change. It'd be like throwing a baseball and a softball, right? You can't throw a baseball and a softball the same, or a baseball and a football. They way different.
Right.
A baseball and a racket, or a tennis ball, or a golf ball. They're two different weights. But if you always threw the same weight baseball, you know where it's going to drop. Well, we have rangefinders and pin sights that make up all that stuff. So what the difference between arrows are is you're building bows, or you're building the bullet for your bow. So structural integrity. So for me, like this big heavy arrow, I shot a moose with this, and I still shoot because I bought like 2 dozen arrows when I got my moose tag because I thought I was just going to lose them and break them or whatever. So I bought a bunch of arrows, and I still have a bunch. What's inside this component wise and why it got so heavy is inside this shaft is an insert outsert system. So this, well, I'll start out, this is 175 grain point and 115 grain insert.
Okay.
This is a 250 spine arrow, and I'd have to measure the carbon length. I don't remember. I built these years ago. So inside there, so all the way up to there is carbon and insert, much like a regular insert. So if you build a normal arrow, right, you go to Shields, you go to Bass Pro Shop, your local bow shop, you buy yourself a set of gold tip hunters, right? They come with your 11 grain aluminum insert. Well, the only thing that's in that is that much material. Right? That's all the structural integrity of that arrow is in that first inch. So where you go to strength wise and structural integrity, now this pin is going in 2 inches. Right, it's going in 2 inches, and there's a stainless steel sleeve that covers. Yeah, we'll do that. That covers the first inch. So it's stainless steel, carbon, aluminum insert for the first inch, and after that, it's carbon and aluminum. So the first 2 inches of this arrow is a solid mass.
Now,
That
why?
makes sense.
Yeah, but why is that necessary? Or why do you feel that's necessary? What does that add?
That's a cinder block at 20 yards. I
I
shot a cinder block at 20 yards.
Is it bent? I can't tell.
Yeah, it bent the insert.
Okay.
So
But I mean, it's still intact though.
yes, so it's still
Yeah.
still penetrating through an animal. This is that same cinder block with a 400 spine arrow. This was an arrow. This wasn't the one I shot at it, but it looked exactly the same. Just your standard 11 grain insert, 100 grain field point. Your standard go to the store, and it blew the whole front end out. This is all crunchy. This is all carbon that's blowing up inside. That has stopped wherever it's at.
Yeah.
So if you hit a bone, a shoulder blade, something hard inside of an animal, a piece of rebar inside of a 3D target, that's what
Yeah.
you get, right?
Yeah, because
Everybody's blown up arrow shooting a piece of rebar.
no. I've never done that.
Never done that, right? So structural integrity. To know that this arrow, when I shot that moose, all my arrows, I lost one arrow and it broke about right here because when it went through, it stuck in the ground and the moose rolled over.
Oh wow.
All the rest of the arrows were just sticking in there. Like it looked like a pincushion because I just kept sinking arrows in it.
So to go back just for reference, for those listening that may not understand, you're saying that with the lighter setup with the just the standard aluminum insert,
Mm-hmm.
that field point or that point stopped where it hit, and the momentum of the arrow carried
Came
like
around.
pushed it into it, and there was no penetration. Whereas the heavier arrow with more backbone, did you probably actually got penetration with that one, though?
Yeah, this shot into a cinder block. It actually cracked the cinder block, and the
Yeah.
arrow came bouncing at me. I mean,
Yeah.
the knock blew out, all that. The knock's gonna blow out, right? The knock blew up, all that kind of stuff. This hit the cinder block and bounced straight back at me like a ricochet would on a rifle, like
So
on a metal target.
the whole purpose of what you're saying is with these quality components,
Yeah.
and the quality components do make the arrow heavier, but it can hit something hard and continue going, whereas the lighter, lesser components are going to hit and just completely fail.
Yes. There you go. That was a great way of describing it. Yeah, and it's the components of the arrow. So you're making so another thing you can do is if you want that heavy FOC, right? That forward of center. So now instead of having an arrow that's let's call it carbon 28, right? The first 2 inches of this arrow is now solid.
Hmm.
So that doesn't flex at all. So now how far is the flexing part of that arrow is only 26
Yeah.
inches. So now you can run a lighter shaft, a thinner, or not a thinner, not a more flimsy arrow. Maybe you could go to a 300 spine
Hmm.
or something like that. When you start jacking a bunch of weight up on there, like this has got a lot of weight up the front. It's 175 grain broadhead and 115 insert.
Golly,
So
freaking.
these are 250 spine arrows, and they are on the stiff side. I knew that they were, but they shot just fine. I bought 250s and 300s. I figure I can't go with the weight problem wasn't an issue. I shot a moose at 34 yards, so
Yeah.
it wasn't, and a moose is the size of a billboard at 34 yards. So um, I wasn't too worried about drop. Now I've shot them. The cool what you end up getting with a higher FOC is I have shot these same arrows. I shot them in a 900 field round up there at Sewers Valley Archery, which is like the big archery event that they would do every year was the 900 round. So we are shooting at, I want to say it was 60 yards, and it's 900. I don't remember how many arrows it is. Anyways, it's a 900 score. They shoot. It's big and like for recurves and stuff. It's a huge target. It's one of the big like 3 foot circles.
Okay.
But there was me and another guy, and he was shooting a standard 100 grain in or 11 grain insert, 100 grain head, and it's North Dakota, so it's always windy. And he asked me, "Where am I aiming?" Because he said he was aiming at 9 o'clock in Kentucky windaging in his arrow to get the center, right? Because the wind's blowing it that hard.
Yeah.
Well, with that much mass up front, even you could watch the arrow fly through the air sideways. The vanes were grabbing air, and I
Hmm.
was still just aiming at the center. So I never changed my aim because there's so much of that momentum going where I told it to go right off the get go. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
It's just a happy coincidence that I've noticed. Is it useful? No, the arrow's still flying through the air sideways, but it's more forgiving. And so, like when we go back to tuning a bow, the way I tune a bow is I'm trying to tune it to be as repeatable and as easy to shoot. So I torque tune and I group tune. So I
Okay.
torque tune and I adjust to where the rest sits in and out so I can camp my wrist left or right and get the least amount of deviation on target. So it's the pivot point of which the arrow is released on a bow.
Yeah, torque tuning is something that I've not delved into, so I wasn't really sure how that worked.
So trying to take the idiot out of the bow, trying to do as less amount of Indian and more arrow as possible.
Okay.
So so torque tuning is where is it when you release this where it can be off like this, which
Yeah,
is this, and where it affects it the least.
that makes sense.
So you're going to get like if you torque tune hard one way, you're going to get a group here and a group here. Well, you can adjust that rest so that those groups are maybe only here and here.
Hmm.
So you find that it would be a node in reloading where you find the spot where your pluses and minuses are the smallest deviation.
Sure.
So you're trying to take as much because the biggest problem with a bow, and you and I will both every archer will agree, the hardest part about shooting a bow is the human behind it.
That's the one behind it.
Yeah, it's not the bow. That thing is set up as long as it's there. I mean, the string's going to stretch. That's going to happen. I don't care what string manufacturer you go to. They're all using the same string. They're all going to stretch.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it is. They're made out of trash bags. They're plastic strings. That's just the way it is. They're all using B52 or whatever it is bowstring. I have a spool of it here for the recurves.
Mm.
They're all shooting the same material. They all get it from BCY. It's just the way it is. So my string stretch, limbs losing power, stuff like that. Those are going to be bow inconsistencies. But that's on a. If I was Levi Morgan, I could tell. But I'm Eric Wells, and I'm the problem, not the bow.
Right.
And then you look at all right. So am I trying to shoot 100 yards with a heavy arrow? No. Like I knew I was going to be close with the moose. I knew I was going to be up close and personal. Is it overkill for a deer? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't need a 300 Win Mag at 50 yards. Absolutely do not, right? Not, will it work? Absolutely. A 45-70, something that's going the same velocity as a 30-30 at 100 yards, they're both going to put them down.
Yeah.
One is the amount of drop that you're allowing yourself to have.
Yeah.
DV.
That was going to be my next question is if your 660 grain arrow works as well as it does, why do you have three different arrows?
Tack events.
Okay.
That's why I built that arrow was a tack event. That and I bought a lot of arrows. So I've got a milk crate of arrows or a 5 gallon bucket over there and a milk crate next to it of arrows. There's probably 100 arrows laying around in here. And I try stuff and I just tried stuff constantly. Super interesting one. And to the guys that lean on the heavy FOC, right? FOC, that's the only thing that matters, and that's where you get all your weight. This
Mhm.
is probably arguably the most standard arrow of our fathers and grandfathers. This is a double X75, so an XX75. I think this is a 2216, which I don't even know what spine that comes out to be, but they didn't. So if you look at the way that they tuned an aluminum arrow, and you turned a carbon arrow the same way, you would come up with a heavier structural integrity arrow. That's just the way it is. It's a 150 grain point. I have no idea what the insert weight is, and then on this arrow weighs. This was given to me by a friend of mine, and 601 grains.
Wow.
So this was the arrow that our dad and grandfather shot when they got aluminums, right? This was the arrow, and they built this arrow because it tuned the best out of the bow. They don't care. They didn't have scale. They didn't have digital scales. They didn't care what it weighed. It tuned the best, and it got the best arrow flight.
Yep.
So you take that stiff of an arrow, and then I don't know how you work. Do you know how aluminum arrows work? Like
What do you mean?
So if you're 2216, so 22 thousandths or 0.22 on the outside, 0.16 on the inside gives you a whatever that sidewall thickness is. I don't math on camera, but that gives you the spine. So you can go, we'll go with like a 2210, which would be a thicker wall because it's only 10,000 or 100 thousandths on the inside. Does that make sense?
It does, and I didn't know that, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so that's how so it's inside and outside diameter. And then in that is the sidewall thickness of the arrow, which gives you your spine. But they didn't measure it off the spine. Spine is now, there's 2 points, 28 inches apart, hang 1 kilogram, which is 2.2 pounds in there, and at 28 inches in the center, you measure how much it deflects. So a 500 spine arrow deflects 500 thousandths, a half inch. A
Hmm.
250 spine arrow deflects a quarter inch, 250 thousandths. That's how you get your stiffness rating. So the lower the number, the less deflection.
Yeah.
This is how you get spine. So going back to like this, they tuned it to whatever flew the best out of the bow. And they wanted a certain amount, so 150 grain point. Well, they weren't building aluminum points at the time. So this would have been like a bare razor head or something like that. And I brought broadheads. So this probably would have been a very typical arrow setup of the day. This is a glue in point. So that would have been a very typical arrow of the 80s and 90s, really.
Sure.
600 grains. Weight was not what they were going for. They're not shooting distance because they were shooting instinctive with compounds in those days, right?
Yeah.
So now we have all of these advantages of having pin sights, rangefinders, and all that stuff. So now you just build the right bullet for your bow. So I've built, I don't know how many arrows for Hunter and guys that are around there that say, I'll go back. I built an arrow for a guy, shot a 60-pound bow, had a 26.5-inch draw, and he wanted to shoot antelope in South Dakota at 80 yards.
Oh, good luck. How'd you do it?
So I built him a light arrow, relatively light. It was like right around 410 grains, something like that.
Hmm.
So right around that 400 grain mark, I got him on the Sever, like the 1 inch cut mechanicals. So it flew out of the air. So he shot mechanical, a small mechanical, a light arrow, and we got the speed up because he wanted to shoot the distance, and he didn't have the horsepower. He was shooting 60 pounds and a short draw length.
Yeah.
Right? If you're shooting 90 pounds and have a 30-inch draw length, all of this stuff doesn't matter. Like, right? You're shooting a cannon at something.
Yeah.
So you build the right thing for the job. Well, all of the arrows that I built work on a deer? Absolutely. Like
Hmm.
I wouldn't feel uncomfortable doing it. Would I send that super light one at an elk? People do it. People do it all the time. It's legal to hunt with a 223. I wouldn't hunt with a 223. My kids shoot with a 300 blackout because it's a big enough bullet going the right speed. So you're building the right bullets for the bows, is all arrows are. So if you look at it, 10,000 foot, structural integrity, arrow flight, and building the right tool for the job. All of those end up leaning towards on the heavier side just by default. And I'm not has to be a certain weight, has to be a certain FOC. If I had to build one arrow, it would probably be into that 475 to 525 window, somewhere around there. If I could build one arrow that said, you're going to kill antelope and deer and an elk, you can kill a moose with it. If I had to build one arrow, but I don't. I have lots of different guns. I have lots of different arrows that I can change the caliber of.
Yeah, so a couple things there. One is I was actually gonna be my next question is if you could if you compromise and you had to build one arrow, what would that arrow be?
It
And
would
then,
be,
go ahead.
that's what was this 477 or something like that. It would be
Yeah,
this arrow.
something like that. And then dang it.
Structural integrity. The way these inserts work, this is a half out. So lots of companies now are doing the half outs. Like I know the one I have here is from Victory. This is an Ethics half out. Ethics, super cool company. If you ever look into him, veteran owned. He's a retired Marine out of North Carolina. And when I started this whole Arrow tuning kits, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I don't have a problem talking. I just called him and I talked to Scott, who owns Ethics over there, and I told him what I was doing, and he said, "That is awesome." I told him I don't know where I'm starting. He said, "Not a problem. Here's the deal. I'm gonna transfer you over to our like wholesaler department. You are now a wholesale. You are now a dealer for Ethics Archery. I want you to start carrying products, and I want you to call me if you have any problems."
No, that's legit.
He said get under the wing, baby bird, and it just we and so I've called him and asked him all sorts of questions about marketing and stuff like that, and he said don't follow the trends, don't get all high and mighty on what everybody's doing the hot stuff. Do what you do and just do it. So these ethics archers, this is a half out, so it sticks outside past the carbon, and then it's about what is that? Probably an inch and a quarter, inch and a half or so of stainless steel inside. So way more than your aluminum
Yeah.
insert and stainless steel, not aluminum. A lot of companies now are doing the half outs, which encompasses just a little bit of the carbon. A little bit goes over the edge, just kind of protects it, and then this goes into the shaft. A lot of them, because of the weight, you notice when they first started doing it, they were all aluminum and titanium, and now they're all stainless steel.
Yep.
Like if you look at a lot of the factory inserts that come, they've pretty much dropped the titanium. They've gone to aluminum and stainless steel for the half outs. And some of these, some are better than others. The victories are cool, but I don't like their taper design. I just don't like the way they do theirs. But that's just a personal thing. They work great. I've built them for people. They fly wonderful. They do things. They protect the arrow. Structural integrity. That's the biggest thing, and it just naturally tends to a heavier arrow
That's
and a higher arrow.
exactly that's exactly how I was gonna just kind of summarize everything you just said is for you guys listening, Eric's not here saying, "Hey, you have to shoot a heavier arrow because, the heavier arrow is the bee's knees." He's saying that he prioritizes structural integrity of an arrow, and the components that it takes to reach that structural integrity just happen to be heavier than other standard components.
Yeah,
Agreed. All
yeah,
right.
that's the best way of summing it up. In a really long form, I got to that.
No,
Um,
I do appreciate everything you went through to get there because it's some of the stuff that I'm hearing for the first time, just not explaining the way you're explaining it. And I hope that you guys listen and appreciate it as much as I do, that he's taken the time to really teach us all about this. So thank you for that.
yeah, broadheads going the same thing. I'm anti-aluminum on broadheads. Um,
Okay.
Aluminum bends and then breaks. Steel doesn't. Steel will bend, and it takes a hell of a lot to break a piece of steel. So, like broadhead selection wise, um, like the Magnus, I did some work on a guy's arrow, and I got the Magnus Stingers. These are great. I love the design. Um, I've shot animals with them, and every animal that I've shot with them, I've sent them back because Magnus has a lifetime warranty on their broadheads, and
Mm.
they've all been bent. And it's just the way that their ferrule design is set up. I shot kudos because I wanted to try the single bevel. Honestly, that is an indestructible head. I have shot him into everything. I've missed targets. I've shot him into the rebar and dinged up. I've broken the ends, the points off of there. I really like the convex style head. The way a hide on an animal works is it's under tension. So if you shot like a standard, like this is a bear paw, if you shot that into there, it's not going to do any more cutting than it's going to get here. That's just the way it is because it's going to cut and taper in, kind of like like if you took like a skinning knife and cut into it. You're only going to cut what you're going to get. Or if you took a really sharp, like a convex blade, like this, as that skin stretches, that small hole here, as that skin stretches, it's going to cut more and more. So these will end up getting a huge cut out of them.
Yeah,
That's the shape of them.
that makes sense. Yeah.
I shot the moose. This is a 175 grain swamp shark. This is a giant broadhead. I don't know where it's at, but I shot one of these into the foundation of my house in Minot, and it zigzagged the tip just a little bit, and it stuck into the concrete.
Oh, wow.
Uh, they're just super strong, all stainless, all welded together. Just the steel on broadheads. I'm not against mechanicals. I like mechanical broadheads. They're awesome. Again, I have Rage turkey broadheads. The Rage turkey broadheads, they're aluminum. I wouldn't shoot them at all. This is stuff that I've just accumulated. So these are I'd go shoot squirrels with or coyotes or something. Severs. I've shot Severs since they came out. Randy Ulmer is a really good guy. I've met Randy Ulmer a couple of times at different events, and he was the guy who originally did the Ulmer Edge broadhead, which was the predecessor to the Sever. So that was his design a long time ago.
Man, I've heard of Ulmer's Edge, and I don't even remember what they look like. But
Yeah, well, they look like a Sever.
I'm gonna look it up real quick. Sever is that's my current broadhead. I so I shot fixed blades for a long time. It just dependability. I always felt like with mechanicals, there's stuff that can go wrong, and I wanted to eliminate anything that could possibly go wrong with my shot. Um, but I was not happy with really the noise of the broadheads I was shooting because I mean fixed blades, there's more material out there catching air. They're going to be louder.
You have a vein on the front of an arrow.
Yep, my arrows are pretty loud, and so in an effort to try and quiet him down. So I was shooting the Wasp drone fixed blades.
Yeah.
So I went from the Wasp drone to the Wasp jackknife, which is mechanical. I really liked Wasp. I like the
Hmm.
fact that they've been around for a very long time and they're very confident in their design. They haven't changed it really since they started. So I went to the jackknife and I shot him one day side by side with a drone at the bow range, and I was like, these jackknives really are no quieter, maybe minuscule amounts from the fixed blade. And
Hmm.
so immediately I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try something new. And
Yeah.
the biggest name on the block then still is, I think right now, at least the hottest name is Beast Broadheads.
Yeah.
So I looked at him. I know multiple people that shoot him. I've watched
Mhm.
all the videos of Bomar hunting in Africa. Amazing broadheads.
So another thing to think about is how tall is Josh?
He's like 6'4", 6'6".
Big dude. How
Yeah.
many pounds does he draw?
He shoots 90 at probably a 30, 31 inch draw.
If I was shooting a cannon at something too, I wouldn't care. Like, right, he shoots his arrow builds, he builds a heavy arrow by definition of a heavy arrow because he has to.
Yeah. To that point, do you watch Bow Disciples at all? James
Yeah.
Bow. So,
Mhm.
I've met him. I've talked to him a few times, and
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
I say I talked to him. I podcasted with him last year,
Mhm.
but he shoots beast, and again, great results out of them. So I
Yeah.
was leaning that way. I even had them in my shopping cart to buy them. And sometimes I do this thing where if I want to test how bad I want to buy something, I'll put it in my cart and then let it sit for a few days.
Oh,
And then if I forget about it, then I probably didn't really, need it or want it that bad. So in the time that the beasts were sitting in my shopping cart, I don't know why, but I felt towards Sever in the beginning the way I feel towards Matthews, that it's a cult. I don't know how to explain any better than that.
well, I think archery, as with anything, there you got your Ford and your Chevy guys. You got your
Yeah.
Matthews and your you. I know a guy that will shoot a Hoyt if Hoyt was the worst bow that was ever built on the planet
Yep.
and broke strings and limbs blew up. He would shoot a Hoyt regardless of whatever he did all the time. I know people that are die-hard Chevy guys. Like they will drive a Chevy until the day they die because everything else is inferior. If you don't care, you just shoot what works the best for you.
Yeah, dude, I've said about my grandpa in the past. I'm like, he'll vote for Satan if he was a Democrat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of. But so that's just how I felt about Sever. Again, I can't explain why. I guess
Oh,
part of it was because I just wasn't a mechanical guy.
marketing. Marketing
Marketing.
did a really good job. Matthews does a really good job at marketing.
Yeah, they're good at it. They rabbit hole. So
Oh, yeah. I shoot
right
a
about
PS. I don't care.
so when I had um those beasts sitting in my cart, I somehow probably through Instagram ad or something found out that Sever had came out with their hybrid broadhead.
Yeah,
Yeah, this, and when I
yeah,
saw that, I was like,
that's the one.
I can get the performance of what I hear about a sever out of a mechanical that will still cut if something happens and the blades don't deploy, whatever. I can't, I haven't just even thought of a scenario where those blades don't deploy.
Well,
But regardless,
Muzzy makes a hybrid that I've looked at a dozen times. It's a stainless steel ferrule. It's got a big two blade Muzzy broadhead on and it's a hybrid.
got you.
Um,
Is there's
it's
a forward deploy or rear deploy? Or do you?
rear deploy.
Okay.
Rear deploy. It's short. I bought a set of I have tooth of the arrow four blades that I want to try out.
Okay.
Tooth of the arrow four blades. Again, like I'm shooting 30 yards in a deer stand over a feeder. Noise at that speed isn't an issue.
Yeah.
So another advantage of shooting a heavy arrow is it soaks up energy. So it's a hell of a lot quieter than a
Quieter.
fast. So
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not a and you've said it and I've said it already a bunch of times. I'm not a guy that say you have to shoot a certain amount. Absolutely. Like Hunter. Hunter was building 3D target arrows. I said, dude, your margin for error between an 8 and a 10 on a foam target is an inch. You need the least amount of drop as possible, but we need to buck the wind. So I built him a heavy front of center, the lightest arrow that I could possibly build. It was running on the ragged edge. It was like a 350 spine, but with weight up front so that it carried it straight, no matter the wind or whatever, small vanes, stuff like that. He shot 3D with it. He started getting into it. Hunter's been my go-to because he's got really loud voices in his head, and we were neighbors. He was shooting the indoor stuff, so we were shooting the big staff, the big shaft. I
Yeah.
don't know if you have gotten into the indoor target, the 20-yard fixed. So the way that all those shafts are 250 spine. That's it. That when you get to that big, what is it, 27 diameter arrow,
Yep.
they're all a 250 spine. So a piece of PVC pipe, the larger it goes, the stronger it is. So
Hmm.
if you take a 1 inch piece of PVC pipe, it's flexible. If you take a 6 inch round piece of PVC pipe, the same length, it's a lot stiffer. It
Hmm.
has nothing to do with the pipe, it's just the diameter. So like a 246 arrow in is going to be naturally stronger than a 166 just by the diameter of the arrow. You get the same spine, but they have to build up more carbon. So the weight, let's just go with a 300 spine, a 300 spine 246 and a 300 spine 166. The 246 is going to be lighter. It just takes less material to make it stiff.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the PVC pipe is the easiest way to describe it, right? A 1 inch piece you can flip, a 6 inch piece you can't bend. They're all the same length. It's just diameter. There's math and physics and stuff I don't understand in there.
Dude, you
So,
understand way more of it than I do.
and a lot of it, I try to look at things at a 10,000. What is the goal? And the goal, and I'll get to the goal at the end of like all of this between reloading, shooting arrows, shooting recurves, all of that have the same goal at the end of the day. Um, the 240, the indoor arrows, the really big diameter, they're all 250 spine. You tune the arrow by point weight. There's guys running 300 grains of point weight. So you trim the arrow to get it stiffer,
Mm,
and you add weight, or you leave it long and you run less weight. So there's two different schools of thought.
I gotcha.
So the longer the arrow, the more flexible it is. The shorter the arrow, the stiffer it is.
Yep.
And then the more weight you put on the front, the more it's going to flex at that diameter. So an indoor arrow is tuned off of point weight and length because you're fixed at the same spine. Then you're fixed at that, and then you're fixed at draw length. So your 28-inch draw length, you're going to probably run a 27 and a half, 27-inch arrow. You either jack weight on it or run a 30-inch arrow. Like you have to tune it somehow. You tune the arrow to the bow at that point.
Yep. I understand that for
Does
sure.
that make sense? Yeah.
Yep.
So
100%.
that's where I leave my bow. It's just tuned. It's set up to me. It's repeatable. I try to take as many of my errors out of the bow that I can induce,
Yep.
and then I build the arrow to whatever I'm trying to do. In that case, I basically have two arrow setups. I have two sights that I I can put one side in, switch arrows, shoot those, put the other side in, grab the other set of arrows and shoot those. Tunes the same out of the bow. The bullet doesn't change. The bullet's the only thing that's changing. The powder charge is staying the same.
That's a such a great way to put it.
It's a 10,000 foot view. If I told you you have to shoot a 650 grain arrow or you can't kill a ground squirrel, right? That'd be wrong. That would be wrong. And if I same thing on the same other side, you cannot shoot a moose with a 400 grain arrow, a 400 grain mechanical broadhead. Well, hate to break it to you, it happens all the time. And I even grabbed one. The most killed deer this year, I can tell you, just by default, is a guy who went to Shields and got himself a Shield Outfitters Vendetta Pro 300s, threw a 100 grain broadhead on the front and got him trimmed to length with a set of Blazer vanes on them.
Do them G5 Montex on there, baby.
Whatever's on sale that you got as a package deal. This arrow is going to kill more deer this year. Something like it is going to kill more deer than this year than all this stuff that we're stressing out. Now, at the end of the day, the only part that matters is about the first inch of this arrow and the projectile falling through the air. The bow doesn't matter. The arrow is just a razor blade delivery system. The bow is just a momentum device. That's it. The only thing that matters is about that first inch of the arrow and the projectile flying through the air. Structural integrity, arrow flight. Or arrow flight first. I would say arrow flight. But there's certain things, don't get caught up on the weight. It doesn't matter. So we have a rangefinder. I can tell you that moose was 34 yards. I shot a deer at 78, which was, I'm not going to say I was spraying and praying, but 78's a long shot.
Oh, God. So okay, bringing that up. So, I guess when you had the extremists of heavy arrows, right? You also had the guys that are like, my arrow needs to get there as fast as possible.
Yep.
So I don't really know what I want to ask about that, to be honest, but it's
at 40 yards, it's a half of a second between 300 and 200 feet per second.
All right, we already talked about this. You're right.
I don't know what the human eye blinks. It's less than half a second. I know that.
Well, what brings up the argument is that there are, I mean, there's so many people that film their hunts nowadays, and whitetail especially, there is so much evidence at the speed in which they react to a shot.
Yep.
That convinces, I also even say convinces me that I'm not a 300 grain arrow guy, but I still prefer a system that will get my arrow there
faster.
Faster. Yes.
And what you're trying, 10,000 foot view, what you're trying to do is outrun the speed of sound. So 1,100 feet per second, air density, height and everything. How loud is your bow? How loud is that? Right?
Loud, to be honest.
So the deer hears your bow going off at 1,100 feet per second faster than he hears your arrow hitting him.
I can't quantify that in my head.
Oh. The speed of sound is give or take 1,000, 1,100 feet per second. So when your bow lets go, shtonk, and your arrow is flying, that sound is traveling 4 times faster than your arrow.
Okay, there you go. That's what I was missing. Okay.
So that he is not dodging the arrow, he's dodging sound.
Yes, yes.
So mitigate that, right? Recurves are tremendously quiet. Like I know, he used to run the traditional bow hunter. And his name's Jason Stankowiak, traditional bow hunter and wilderness survival. And then Samco Workshop or something. He lives in Georgia now. He has killed more deer than you and I will ever lie about. Yeah. All he uses is a stick and string, his arrow, and and I started listening. I guess I'll go, make a song short. I started with a recurve. I was given a recurve by my aunt, because I had access to turkey hunt a piece of property in California, but I could only bow hunt. Couldn't afford a compound bow. She had a recurve. She's like, here you go. This was my dad's. So I got into recurves, listening to podcasts. before FOC was the thing. This would have been 2015, 2016, all that stuff. He was taking gold tip brass inserts, cutting the ends off, putting a piece of thread in between there, like a piece of all thread, and epoxy them together to get a higher FOC arrow.
Mm.
And it was all for speed or for quietness. His arrows are unbelievably quiet. You don't hear them go off. His bow, his arrow, his everything. He shoots deer, and you can watch videos of it. He'll shoot. Well, he lives in Georgia now. He'll shoot a deer or a hog, and it won't react.
Wow.
It's just so quiet. I've not. Don't you shoot a Bowtech?
I sure do.
Bowtechs are notoriously loud.
Oh yeah, I'll tell anybody my bow sounds like a shotgun on the line compared
Yeah,
to
I used to. So if you ever make your way up to Sacramento area, Redding or Roseville has a really really good archery club up there. And I shot with a guy that had a Bowtech, and it sounded like a damn 22 going off every time he fired.
yeah.
When you're hunting, at 1100 feet per second is the speed of sound. So when your bow releases and hits that string stop, goes full twang when those cams rotate and makes noise, that's what the animal hears.
Yeah.
An arrow's only going, let's say, 300 feet per second. So 3 times faster, they hear that loud crack 3 times faster than they hear the arrow.
I'm seeing where you're going with this.
So I have electrical tape all over that thing. I have ran cat whiskers on there. I have done all sorts of stuff to try to get my bow to be quiet. Everything, I stole a hunter trick and I have electrical tape on my rest and on my sights, and anything that makes a noise, I have electrical tape on to try to keep the sound down.
So I'm
You're
trying.
never gonna you're never gonna outrun the speed of sound.
Yeah, I was trying to consider it. If the sound is traveling that fast, what is your real advantage if your arrow's going 290 versus 3?
They are going to drop. They're going to react, and that difference in time between 200 and 300 feet per second of an arrow speed is how much reaction time they're getting. They're going to react,
Yes.
but it's just how much that 4/10 of a second or they're going to drop or turn or hop or whatever they're going to do. That's what that gap in time is what you're fighting.
Yeah. I think the vein that I've fallen into now, and I'm pretty satisfied with it, is I try to balance um, speed with kind of everything I've already said. Speed with the performance of my arrow. I'm kind of more worried about the flight and performance of my arrow, and I try to build the arrow in a way that I'm getting as much speed as I can without throwing everything else off, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. So I
because
kind of
you can go way too far in either category.
yeah. So what I've fallen into is I'm shooting 70 pounds, 29.5 inch draw, 461 grain arrow,
Yeah,
and I'm about 281 feet per second. And I've found that that's been a good medium for me as far as getting the arrow there fast enough with the best performance, good penetration, and I've seen little to no like severe animal reaction in that time it takes my arrow to get there.
yeah, and I think encompassing all of that is confidence in your equipment is far superior. I mean, aeroflight,
Oh,
structural integrity, confidence in your shot to, like you said the other day, like people are going to give you a hard time because you picked up your bow and are going to shoot a turkey with it.
yep.
No, dude, that thing didn't change. You did. But as long as you can be repeatable, I don't care if you anchor here. I don't care if you shoot left-handed, right-handed bows. As long as Bomar, he just posted that video where he tore his arm.
Yep.
As long as he does the same thing every time, like I can't draw back a left-handed bow to save my life, but if you put it down in enough low poundage and I did the same thing every time, I shoot a left-handed bow just fine.
Yep.
So
Agreed.
as long as you're consistently inconsistent or inconsistently, don't be inconsistently inconsistent. That's all. Always do the same thing. So as long as you're always doing the same thing over and over again, it doesn't matter. And if the voices in your head, which is what archery's biggest nemesis are, is should I rush the shot because it's windy? Well, you probably should have let down.
Hmm.
Is what you should have done. Unless it was that. It's the same reason why I've tried hinge release, I've tried back tensions, I've tried them all just to play with. I go back to an index. I shoot an index the most. I shoot a hinge better, but less consistent.
Yeah, I've switched to a hinge. It's been about a year now, and I love it. I love shooting a hinge. My
And
my misses are way less, I feel like. And
mhm,
I don't know how to explain it, but I just really love the feeling of a shot breaking on a hinge. It just feels really good.
yeah. And so, like I know Hunter would go back and forth between a hinge and an index finger, whether or not he was or
Hunting.
target or hunting. Um, I used to give him a hard time all the time. Stick with one. I don't care what you do. Just stick with one and have the voices in your head. This is going to be perfect every time. Every time you release an arrow, you need to see the shot before it breaks. It's like calling your shots when you're. So I've been getting into like pistol competitions. So calling my shots, I can tell you that I hit the left side of the target before the bullets ever left the gun.
Mm,
Like as I'm pulling the trigger, I pulled. I can as soon as you get to the point where you're calling your shots, that's when you're dialed in. And it's the same thing with archery. I should have. It's windy. I shouldn't have made that shot. That deer walked behind a tree, and I shot it before. I should have just waited an extra 2 seconds and had a clear lane. Whatever it was, right? It's the mental game that's the hardest part. So
mm.
mental confidence, I think, is the biggest thing. Is one of the biggest things with archery is the mental aspect of it. And going back to the like the mental the therapy that archery brings you. I don't know if you catch it, but I'm a little scatterbrained all the time. Constantly going in different directions. Like I've got four different things started going on right now. When you're shooting a bow, you're focused and you're target focused. Sheep sight, peat alignment, pin, release, anchor, pull, gone.
Yep.
There's nothing in that 5 second window that you're thinking about, and it's a Zen moment. So is it's your meditation, it's you're mindful, like you're mindful, you're completely in that moment. There's nothing, the troubles of the world aren't a problem. Now you probably should have let down if you needed to, right? But that's something to worry about after the shot. But during the shot, as long as you're not rushing it, you're going through your progress. The mental part of it is and confidence is probably one of the hardest parts about archery.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. But it's
Yeah.
also because um I let the voices talk. I don't override them.
And I think what you're doing right now by default, and whether or not you notice it or not, I think everybody that owns a compound should shoot a recurve probably more.
Mm,
Because the difference between the two is a compound is a precision rifle that is dialed in. You've got your arrow, you've got your sights, you've got everything all dialed in. You are perfectly standing, you're anchored, everything is dun, 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 and then you're off by 2 inches. And then you're saying, do I need to move my wrist? Do I need to move my sight? Did I torque my hand a little bit too much? You start, all those voices start getting loud. With a recurve, it's like you and I just going out, hand throwing some clays and shooting some clays for each other. You're going to miss some.
yeah.
Like it's, but at the end of the day, you hit the target and that's a win, bud. Like the closer you are to the center, that's even a bigger win. But on the target at 30 yards, shit, buddy, I'm pretty excited about it.
I can't
So,
explain how good it feels to hit because all
right.
of somebody goes out and puts up like little 5 inch plates on all of our blocks out there, and the feeling whether I mean especially like I've hit the plate at 40 before, and I cannot even explain how good it feels to
Yeah.
hit that plate with a recurve at 40
But at
yards.
40 yards with with your compound, if you're off by 2 inches at 40 yards, what did you do wrong?
Oh, I'm
Right?
if I miss that plate at 40 yards of my compound, I'm pissed, and then
Yeah.
my
But it's
whole
so I think for the mental endorphins that you release, shooting a recurve, I think is probably one of the healthiest forms of archery there is because you just go out there and as long as you're just out there having fun with it, right? You can have fun with their compound. Like you and I could go to the range, go shoot 3D course, whatever, and it would be a blast, right? We'd have a good time doing it. But it's competition. With the recurves, it's like I didn't lose an arrow today. Like, so it's a good day.
that's a
Um,
great point, man. That's a great point.
yeah, I think recurves are hugely important for archery. Um, yeah, if you want to talk about veins, we can talk about veins and the whole arrow tuning kits thing. We didn't talk about that, but
So
I know.
that's actually exactly where I was going is I want you to tell me. what Arrow Tuning Kits is, how you came about it, and also how anybody listening can get some of their own.
Okay, so arrow tuning kits actually started out with Knox. I got a new bow while I was up at Minot, and the arrow that I was shooting would have worked in the same, but the knock fit on the string was different. And so up there, we only had shields at the time, right? So we only had, like most of the world, we have one pro shop around us. It's a box store. They're doing the best they can. Those are great guys that work there up the shields
Yeah.
at Minot. They're awesome dudes, but their hands are tied. They can't be. They have the next customer to worry about, right? So they can't help you. Like those guys there are deep into all the stuff that we're talking about. Like I would talk to those. I'd go in there and BS with those guys, or I'd go shoot with them. They're deep into this at home. They got their own bow shop all set up, everything at the house, but they can't spend the time with the customer. So they build you a basic arrow that works. Well, my knock doesn't fit, and knock fit on an arrow makes a huge difference on release, right? So if it really snaps on, you're getting inconsistencies off the string. If it's too loose, it's going to fall off. So you need to find the right knock fit. Well, how do you do that without them in your hand? You go to your pro shop and you ask them what they have in the drawer, and you find out that a Victory F knock works really good in an Easton arrow because the Easton knock that came with it doesn't fit, all that kind of stuff. So originally came up with the design or with arrow tuning kits for knocks. So it's one of every knock available by shaft diameter and pin knocks, and you get one of each, and they're all in a package. They're all set up, and so you can test knock fit. And I've sold them to a ton of bowstring manufacturers. I know A3 has one of my knock kits at every bow bench. So whenever you order an A3 string, they had a full knock kit that I build on every bow maker's bench. So I think he ordered 6 or 8 of them all at one time. So you can tell them you're running an Easton G knock. They can set the serving to run an Easton G knock opposed to a whatever they build it to. Right? If they don't know, you just build it to something. So that evolved to vanes. So I started buying components, and you don't realize the difference in a vane, right? Because when you open up a Lancaster catalog or you get on the website, it's all in 2 dimensional,
Yeah.
right? So you look at a vane and you watch YouTube videos and they say, oh, a flex fetch silent night or a boning blazer or a heat vane or an AAE hybrid or tack vane or Q2I, they're the best, right? Well, are they the best for you? Well, there's a huge difference in vanes that you don't know until you put them in your hands.
Yeah.
Um, we'll go off of a blazer vane, which is kind of like the F-150 of vanes, right? It's the standard. Everybody knows what a boning blazer vane is, right? So when I'll compare this and where somebody will ask me, I say, well, pull up a blazer vane. Well, it's stiff, but it's not really stiff. Well, if you pick up a boning heat vane, same company, same manufacturer,
Super stiff.
yeah, it's going to be a lot stiffer. It's going to be a lower profile, longer. And I wish I was smart enough to figure out cubic like surface area
Yeah.
because I'd like to figure out how to do surface, like how much surface area contact it is per vane. So if anybody out there is smart to figure out the surface area of a vane, I will send them to you if you can figure that out. But if you look at like a boning vane it's not, I mean, we'll call it a 5, right? A heat vane is a lot stiffer. We're getting into the 7 to 8. Well, you get into a tack vane. Have you ever messed with a tack vane?
I hated them. Probably
Yeah.
because I didn't prep them the right way, but I did not like them.
Adhesion is a pain, but they're like a 10. It's like a credit card.
Yeah.
They are super stiff. On the opposite,
Those things will cut themselves, like cut when you shoot through an animal
yeah,
themselves, you know?
yeah, you can shoot. If you're zipping through targets, you will have 3 distinct Gas Pro. Um, their vanes are like silicone, like a rubber silicone glove. They are super soft, but
Like,
you can't tell. They all look the same, right? They all just look like a vein, but they're made. The material that they're made out of is different.
yeah.
Uh,
The point of what you're saying is that uh, even people that know don't really know. You wouldn't know till you had it in your hand.
yeah, it's a 2 dimensional. They all look the same in a Lancaster catalog. They all are 2 dimensional. They're all the same thickness of paper. And then you look at long and short, and then there's a huge argument on 3 fletch, 4 fletch, offsets, lefts, rights, all of that stuff. I can tell you what's worked for me. I like to run based off of the size. So when you put a field point, super forgiving, right? A field point is just the diameter of an arrow tapered down. The vein makes less of a difference on a field point, and you can get away with less vein on a field point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
It has nothing to do with, all a vein does is create a little bit of drag and rotation. So the more, so think of a football, the tighter the spin on the football, the less it's spinning out the inconsistencies. You're balancing a tire. The faster that tire spins, the less the consistencies are,
Mm.
right? So if that football is spinning really tight, the wobble in there starts to become a consistent concentric wobble. So it's going to wobble evenly all the way around. So the faster you can get the vein spinning, and that's where left versus right goes. Hunter and I have gone back and forth a bunch. We've done tons of vein testing. We fletched 6 arrows to the left, 6 arrows to the right. We've shot them. Fun fact: I've never been good enough to tell the difference between a left and a right helical, or a left and right fletch, left or right fletch.
In in flight.
Yeah, in flight, in impact on the target. I have not ever noticed it. That being said, the voices in my head, my arrow, I've clocked my arrows, I've bare shaft them,
Yep.
marked them, shot them, they spin to the left.
Yep.
So what you're doing is you're getting an arrow off the string and it's trying to go to the left naturally before it gets airspeed over the veins. It's trying to go to the left and then the right vein will turn it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for that probably millisecond,
Yeah, see, that's what I've always been curious too. I don't know if there's a way to quantify that, but I'm in the same mindset as you in that in my mind it's like if my arrow is naturally wants to turn left, but my
keep it
but
going.
my fletching's making it turn right. Like, is there a loss of energy there? Is there a loss of consistency there? I'm just gonna let it. I want it to naturally go the way that it wants to go, anyways.
I would I would I would venture to say that it makes so little of a difference in the grand scheme of things that unless you're shooting out of a hooter shooter and
And
it's just perfect conditions, it would never notice.
yeah,
That being said, I have them fletched to the left, but
yep, same. Always
that's
will.
voices in my head. I will fletch them to the right. If all I had was a jig that fletched to the right, I wouldn't have any problem with fletching them to the right. I have no difference. Where a vein starts to come, the size and everything vein is area that you're shooting in, what you're doing, and what's on the front. So if you're shooting at distance, the last thing you want is a really big, these are feathers, but a really big vein, right? At distance. There you go. We'll go to an actual. So these are the 5-inch veins off of like the aluminum arrows back in the day.
Yep.
At distance, what you're going to get is wind drift. So every time this spins and the wind is coming this way, it's going to start pushing that. It's just surface area of the vein. So the spin is coming from how much you're offsetting it. So that's how fast you're getting it to spin.
Yep.
The wind drift is how much surface area is up against it. Now there's a solid argument between 4-fletch, 3-fletch, and 4-fletch on whether or not, this is where I would like to know surface area. So if I had 3 veins this big or 4 veins that big, surface area is the same. Area of the vein in contact with the air. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm wheels are turning in my mind because um I always think in terms of drag when I'm thinking I'm putting a fourth fletching on there. There's another fletching that's going to catch air. It's going to cause it to it's going to increase drag. It's going to cause it to slow down faster. So that's an interesting point. If you have a 5-inch vein 3 fletch versus a 4 or 3-inch vein 4 fletch, and if
Yep.
you're that math probably doesn't math out, but when you have the same surface area in a 3 fletch versus a 4 fletch, like where's the
Yeah,
I guess
it's
the
air.
difference
It's air
is
going over the side, and
yeah.
there's crazy things. People will put tape on the front, which disturbs the air going over the vein, creates turbulence over the vein. I think that's way too far down the rabbit hole. I think when you get to that point, you're way too concerned about the arrow, not the Indian, because at the end of the day, 30 and 35 yards is a bigger difference than whether or not you're running a 3-fletch and a 4-fletch. So shoot better, right?
Yeah.
But going to a smaller vein is less surface area for wind. So if you have a 90-degree wind to this, that's a big sail coming over. So compared to something like that's that in a four fletch.
That's
But
good.
I,
Good looking nice job. I like that. That orange. That looks good.
yeah, orange on orange. I used to shoot white on white, and then I moved to North Dakota and realized that hunting in the snow with white on white was the worst idea on the planet.
I just don't miss, man. It'll be
Yeah, or
red.
it just
It'll
makes
be
you
red.
always get blood on an arrow. Yeah. Um, oh, speaking of veins colors, if you ever want to hear it, so I took a whole bunch. I have when I order veins, I usually just ask my daughter whatever color she likes, and of course she always picks like pink and purple,
Yep.
which I don't have any out here, but blue, pink, um, stay the brightest, the longest in low light, and catch your eye. So everybody thinks like you're red or you're yellow or something like that. You're like, oh, I can find that arrow. Well, I have stuck them out in the grass and watched the sunset, and you'll see like, four of them. You'll see only three of them, and you'll see only one. Pink and blue. There's nothing in nature minus flowers and turkey heads that are blue.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that because it's so opposite of the natural colors?
Pink, nothing but flowers. Flowers and turkey heads are the only thing that are colorful that are pink.
Yep.
So it's just different reds and greens. People that are colorblind have problems with reds and greens. Red will blend into green, even though there's such a contrasting color. Your eye on the wavelengths will pick up on that, so you'll lose reds in the grass. Um, White is surprisingly blends in with anything that's brown, obviously because they're a reflective color. But yeah, pinks and purple or pinks and blues have what I've noticed. That's just an arbitrary fun fact because I've stuck them out in the grass and I've just put them out there to see what colors changed. Um, Going back to veins, there's only so all veins, all manufacturers that I'm aware of, these are all extrude hones. So this is a giant ribbon that's a mile long, and they just come through with the die, ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk.
Yep.
Flex Fletch is the only one that each one of these veins is molded.
Okay.
So they're each individually molded. So Flex Fletch does a whole different process with stuff. So if you actually look at this, isn't the best one. I should have grabbed a longer one. The bottom is thicker. Bottom is thicker than the top. The top is thinner, and the front is thicker than the back. So down here in the front is a thick vein, and up here at the top is a thin vein. So they're actually tapered and then tapered.
So, sorry, say that one more time. You said thicker in the front or thicker in the back?
Thicker in the front. So they're
Okay,
thicker
got
in the front and thicker lower. And then they taper up and they taper back, or they taper back. So this vein back here is pretty thin. Super cool idea.
Does
What
that
I worry,
is
what
that
I worry,
sorry. Go ahead.
what I worry about is flutter, which is what you get with a soft vein, because this is real flimsy back here, and you'll get flutter.
Oh, flutter. Okay.
So I stay away from a lot of shield cut stuff just because of that extra point. Again, a lot of times it's the Indian, not the arrow. Um, I've shot them. These are flex fletches. These are flex fletches, but I like this kind of shield cut opposed to something that's like this. This is on a on a feather, but something with that big tail sticking up in the wind.
Yeah.
You see that big tail sticking up in the wind? It gets a little fluttery back there.
Uh,
Feathers fly really good. Feathers are cool. They're super forgiving.
yeah.
Shot compound.
I've never shot Fletch. I'd honestly like, but when I find something that works really well for me, I'm very reluctant to change it. And
Yeah.
so when I've been shooting the AAE Maxes for a long time just because they work exactly how I want them to. But so I'm saying I'd never heard of Fletch until Peter. Um, he's a guy I've had on the podcast now, and I've shot bows with him quite a bit. He's a insanely good shot with a bow. He's incredible.
It's
And he introduced him Flex Fletches to me one day, and I was honestly impressed with him at the so the reason that he likes him so much, and I've never really held one. but I take his word for it that a lot of fletchings, if they're like compressed, or let's say you have them strapped on a backpack and they're shoved down against the backpack for a long
Yep.
time, they don't recover. Like
No.
it's
Tack
gonna,
veins are horrible.
yep. And then Flex fletches, he's like, yeah, you could keep these things smashed up against a backpack and then take your bow off, and within minutes they retain their shape. And because if you have a fletching that gets that crinkle in it, that's going to affect your flight.
Yeah, that football is out of spiral.
Yep. And then when you're backpacked 5 miles in the backcountry and realize that your fletchings are all crinkled up, you're kind of screwed.
Unless you got some water. If you ever want to rebuild fletching, boil some water or get it
Water.
up to warm and
Yeah.
dip it. That works too. So if you shoot are you shooting the hybrid, like the Max Hunters or the Max Stealths or
Mine are just AAE max. I forget if they're like
shorts or longs?
what are they, 3 inches? Three
So
and a half.
they're the Max Stealth.
Okay, there you go.
So AA also. So the pain in the butt with the Max Stealth, Max Hunter, all those.
You got to prime them.
Huh?
I don't know if that's what you're gonna say, but my
Yeah,
headache is that I
you
have to
have to
prime
use their primer system, right? You have to
them.
buy the whole. So AAE made a hybrid. So you can use any glue you want on the AE hybrid veins. So the hybrid 26 is a max still.
I thought they were different material.
They are not close enough to tell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they still have that crinkled potato chip look
Yep.
to them.
Yep. Yep.
But their hybrid veins they allow you to use I can't pronounce it. It starts with a C glue. Um,
Cyanoacrylate.
there you go. That's a $10 word today.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess getting back to like how this whole thing started is the Knox got me going, and then I came from Roseville. I was living up in Sacramento in like the Roseville area. Really good shop, Wilderness Archery is there. Amazing shop if you're ever in the Sacramento area, like the Roseville. Go to the Galleria Mall. It's right there. Drop the wife off. Go to the Wilderness Archery. It's right down the street. Right across the street from them is a amazing 3D course out there. They run a shoot every weekend. But it had an amazing shop, tons of information, and down there. And so I was able to just play around and mess with stuff. Well, we moved to North Dakota, there was nothing there.
Yeah.
So I became no man's land. Bought a press, I got I had a whole bow shop in my basement up there.
Nice.
And so buying vanes, it's no big deal to buy a pack of vanes for $20. You buy 100 vanes, right? It's $100. Or it's 100 vanes. It's a lot of vanes for $20. No big deal. But if you wanted to test these 4 vanes, now you're in at $80 and 400 vanes.
Yep.
All that just to find out that, oh, I really do like these AAEs because I want to test that. Well, ArrowTuningKits sells everything in sample packs. So, like there'll be 12 of each vane inside there. So you want to try a heat vane, you order 12 of those. They're $350 right now. I need to adjust prices because I'm still going off of what I have in stock, and everything has gone up in price. So still currently $350. They're going to have to go up because they cost more for me now to reorder. But you get a pack of 12 that gives you four of them at 3 fletch or 3 of them at 4 fletch. You could test 350, so you can get 4 different vanes for $20. Do all your testing, and then go out and buy your quantities. Lancaster, preferably support a local bow shop.
Yep.
They need it more than Lancaster does. They sell plenty of hats and tumblers. So, yeah, support your local bow shop. But the idea was to be able to test for less. So you can test vanes. I have pretty much every vane available in a hunting style vane. I have some of the target stuff. I have recurve stuff, feathers. I have fobs. Fob has gone out of business, and I've pretty much sold out of my. You remember fobs? They were that circle.
I forgot all about them until you just said it, and it just rung that bell.
Fob has pretty much gone out of business. I've had people reach out to me and like, hey, do you have any more laying around? Do you have an odd number or anything? I'll buy whatever you have because of people who like them. And I think they've gone out of business.
Yep.
But whatever I have is what I have left. I can't order more. So when that stock depletes, that'll just fall off. But feathers, vanes, fobs currently. So you could buy a pack of 12 or buy a pack, test them, see what you like, what flies the best, what tack van, what doesn't glue very well or is a pain to put on and stuff like that. You get to test, you just get to try them for a lot cheaper. Um, I got the idea of our Barnes bullets. So I was reloading Barnes bullets, and Barnes used to are they still might you can buy 20. So instead of buying 130 caliber bullets or 7 mil bullets, you could buy 20 for less. Do your ladder load, figure out if your bullet's good. You buy sample packs. So um, inserts are hit and miss. They're kind of hard to keep in stock because there's so many different inside diameters and outside diameters that are changing. I don't do any of the insert outserts like on my heavy arrow. That's that insert outsert system. That is because you have to get on the ethics website and give them their inside and outside dimension for the system.
Okay.
So uh, not every 204 out of 300 spine is going to be the same inside and outside dimension.
Depends on their manufacturer.
Depends on Victory, Sirius, Gold Tip. They're all going to be a little bit different. And then you can also get aluminum inserts, stainless inserts,
Yeah.
aluminum outserts, stainless outserts. So there's a lot of, I can't keep that kind of stuff in stock. I can't carry that. I can't carry everything, right? But I carry all your static inserts. Let's see, these, so where you just cut them to the right length. That fits an inside 204 diameter. You can cut down the length what you want in stainless and aluminum, but that just goes into a 204 standard diameter arrow. So insides are all the standard.
Do you also do like field point kits, like various weights in field points so you can see what grain shoots the best out of your bow, like if you're bare shaft tuning?
Yep. So, like how I came up with that such heavy weight on the front is what I would do is I just throw a standard insert in, something that I can just like hot melt in, like 11 grain insert. I know that's just about 10 grains. So when I do math, and then Ethics make an insert kit from 100 grain field point to I don't know if you've ever seen one of these, but that's a 300 grain input, 300 grain field point.
Yeah, I could be wrong. So what turned me onto this is because when I first learned about Ranch Fairy,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't one to lead up to, hey, I'm going to build a 700 grain arrow, but I
Yep.
was definitely intrigued by his, hey, here's a 100 grain, 200 grain, 300 grain, whatever grain field point that you can shoot just to see what's going to shoot the best bullet hole out of your bow, and that definitely intrigued me.
Yep.
So
So
that's why I asked
it
the question
does
if that was something that you had.
it does make a difference. And in reloading, it's called a node. So you'll find a window. So like on those heavy arrows, anything from like 150 to like 250 shot good.
Hmm.
So that was that whole window where the spine of the arrow was good enough. It wasn't too stiff. It wasn't too not stiff, springy. I don't know what you would call loose. So that was a window. So I shot down the middle at 175.
Sorry, I blanked there for a second.
Oh, you're good. I thought we froze. But so yeah, so you'll find a window like when you start stacking weight up front where between here and here, it's not really making any difference.
Yep.
So then you just kind of look at, well, and when you're running that much weight up front, you can run more insert, which will make the shaft stronger, or you can run a heavier point. Like I can get that was 175 grain and 115 inserts, so that's 300 and what is that? 310 grains up front. I can throw a 50 grain insert and a 250 grain broadhead up front,
Yep.
but the structural integrity of that system is going to be different, right? So all the weight's out here, and the actual arrow itself is not the strength.
Hmm.
Where I could go to a really heavy insert and a 100 grain point. I could do that. Right. So you can play with the weight of where that weight sits. And it's in such a small window at the front of an arrow that moving it back and forth an inch, I don't think makes a difference.
Mm. Well, does it make? I might have missed what you're saying. Doesn't it make a difference if that inch you're moving is
Internal.
inside the arrow versus on the front?
Yes. So it'll stiffen the arrow. So the more that insert goes back here, essentially the shorter the arrow becomes.
Yes. Yeah. You explained it.
All these arrows. So what I did is I knew I was going to run an insert, and I knew I wanted to run a big enough heavy broadhead. So I ran 175. I found the combination where I had plenty of inserts. So it's an aluminum insert, stainless steel collar. They also make stainless collars, aluminum inserts. So you can run and aluminum, stainless and stainless in any combination to get that insert weight. And then you can adjust your point weight to all that. Because you know that first 2 inches, or probably 2 and 3 inches, is going to be the same. It's just how you got there.
You ever run titanium instead of still stainless steel?
Titanium's really light.
Oh, you're right. That good point. Yeah, good point.
So titanium's awesome. Titanium is an awesome material. All the Sever broadheads are made out of titanium. Um, it's a super strong metal. It's not brittle. It bends to a certain point. Um, yeah, it's a titanium's awesome, but it's just light.
Yeah, you're right though. If you're going for heavier, you don't want to
You
go.
know, like I said, I'm not specifically going for a number. I just
Yeah,
find what
yeah,
works the best.
yeah.
So, but if I'm only playing with so much weight and so much room, you got to get to there somehow.
Yep.
So you know that the system, like that insert's going to be whatever it is, the outsert's going to be whatever it is. I wanted an aluminum insert because I knew aluminum inside carbon isn't going to bend, right? That's all epoxy together up there, and I wanted a stainless steel outside because this is hanging out in the front.
Hmm.
So I wanted this part to be stainless. Like, I don't know if you can see the bend, but where it bends is where it sticks out of the arrow. So that's all stainless steel for right there. And then this screws into that stainless.
Yep.
So the first 2 inches or 3 inches of this arrow with a broadhead on it are a solid mass.
Yeah.
So super strong. Structural integrity is my big thing.
Well,
Um,
I tell you what, man. I'm glad that you said it the way that you did the night that I watched you because again, nobody I'd never heard anybody explain it that way. Not to say anybody hasn't. People probably have. I just wasn't listening when they did.
and
And go ahead.
I think a lot of people stand on the Chevys are the best. Like you have to. I've had success with a heavy arrow, so it must be the best way to go.
Yeah.
Well, if you're shooting a hog at 20 yards over a feeder, let's be honest, it really doesn't matter what you're doing.
No.
So I would shoot and at that point, I would look at structural integrity. Hogs are tough. Like they've got a heavy plate on them. Good broadhead, structural integrity. It's not going to hit that plate and bend the front of the arrow. It's not going to blow up or break right behind the insert. Structural integrity. Um, would I want to go antelope hunting with a 600 grain arrow? No, not at all. It's not the bullet that I would take to that gunfight. Um, I would build a different arrow. They're thin skinned. They're fast. I'm going to be shooting at distance in the wind. I'm going to shoot a different arrow setup. So you're just building the right bullet for your bow. It's really arrows are just ballistics.
Yep. Well, I want to say thanks again for explaining it the way that you did and for the 3 hours that you gave me in this conversation. I've
On.
thoroughly,
It's getting long.
thoroughly enjoyed it. But
I know I can ramble, and I know that it's a deep rabbit hole subject with lots of holes.
no, it's no problem at all. And you guys listen, I really hope that you appreciated it and drew as much out of it as I did. And before we get off of here, we mentioned Arrow Tuning Kits a couple times. Will you go ahead and let the listeners know where they can find you if they're interested in trying out an Arrow Tuning Kit for themselves?
It's super easy. It's Arrow Tuning Kits everywhere. ArrowTuningKits.com, Instagram, Facebook, Arrow Tuning Kits. All of them have my cell phone number on it. Call me anytime if you have any questions. Uh, like I said, I work at the fire department. I'll return your call the best I can. Usually I'm sitting around watching movies until something happens, but love to have the conversation if anybody has anything in the comments that you bring up. Um, just shoot them to me. If you have any questions, Ryan, you know where to reach me at any time. So
Yeah,
one of
thanks.
these days we gotta get Hunter on here. The three of us would be a problem.
We go for 6 hours. I bet we could do it. We could
Oh,
run. No,
Hunter and I,
we should do an
Hunter and I can't
Instagram
get off
live,
the phone.
man.
We should. Yeah, Hunter and I have way too longer conversations every time.
I bet they're good though.
We talk about building boats and building four wheelers because we've got a full shop here that we're building motorcycles out of and all sorts of fun stuff. So
Yeah. Maybe Louisiana's not too far from Georgia either. Maybe when I get down there, I'll make some time to head a little further east, find out about
Yeah.
deer hunting
Have,
in Georgia or something.
well, you have a spot here anytime. And we've got 14 acres here. We've got a big pecan orchard. We can camp the camper right here, so you're good to go. So
Dude, I appreciate that so much. So before we get off here, I want to say, like you said, Arrow Tuning Kits on the social medias. Please go check him out, follow him, subscribe, give him the support. He's doing really good work. I mean, like you said, if you guys get sick and tired of having to buy 50 vanes to buy one or to try one, um, this is really your solution right here. So check him out, give him the support, subscribe to his stuff. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is, and then throw some comments for me and Eric to respond to. I would appreciate it. I believe he would enjoy the opportunity to have some conversation with you guys about arrows, about hunting, about anything really. Um, Again, thank you for your time, and I think that's going to do it for this one.
awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, appreciate you, Eric. Thanks for tuning in to the Mountains Are Everywhere podcast. If you want to stay up to date, be sure to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait to bring you another one. Until then, you keep climbing, and I promise I'll be climbing too.